You pointed out the V versus V. It's Viva la Vitality V Virtus.pro.
All right, that
is a lot of Vs. I feel like I'm in V for Vendetta right now, and I'm totally okay with that. So, jumping into this ban phase, it's funny, we just came out of Clubhouse, which is a very hard breach-centric map. Breach is all name of the game, and honestly, on Oregon, that is a super important part, especially that basement and that top floor, which is the two most prevalent sites. So, kicking it off, we'll see the Maverick banned out. That's going to change the landscape a little bit. I do wonder whether we'll see the Thatcher double down here. No, in fact, it's a Ying. I'm not too surprised by that. Sometimes when you don't have a solid avenue into the site, when you have to force your way through choke holes, getting rid of or using utility like that Ying can really brute force those choke points. And Vitality, of course, have Hungry, who is probably the most prolific Ying player out there. You can see a friendly exchange in the chat in regards to that ban. And Vitality are like, all right, I guess we'll just we'll have to reel in Hungry for this game.
Well, I think what's also funny about that is last time they played each other on in stage 1, it was actually Vitality who banned Ying. Obviously, it was a different map. They were playing on Coastline that time, but now they've just, they've traded it. They've decided this is going to be one of those inter-team bans. Every time they come and meet each other, that's what it's going to be. But rounding things out there with Echo, once again, a pretty classic ban on most maps, I think it's fair to say, so slightly less interesting as a Ying ban.
Yeah, and the landscape this leaves us with, especially as we're talking about it, we're having constantly just harping on about these hard breaches. And it means that at the moment, well, not only have you got all of the hard breaches sans Maverick still available, in particular Ace is being taken, but you also have the disabler of Thatcher still on the board, the most prolific one. So I don't see Virtus.pro struggling, or the attack on either side, honestly, struggling too much with getting rid of these walls, especially as from Vitality, we actually see no wall denial whatsoever taken. There's not a single Mute or Bandit or Kaid in this lineup, so it tells me that Vitality are probably going to play a bit more loosely. They're leaning into the information gathering and information denial of both Mozzie and Valkyrie, and that tells me they're probably going to do something a bit more loose. They have only actually 2 shields because Valkyrie has brought a shield on top of smoke, so they can try to fortify down inside of elbow in blue, and probably the second shield will go at the pillar in all likelihood. And if they lean into that, as well as maybe a bit of a loose play around this information gathering, okay, here's the second shield. So they're double downing on blue itself. Note, they just got 1 blue and 1 facing towards pillar, so they have a rotate in elbow, but no shield there. And hey, I reckon this could work out for them, but we'll see how Virtus.pro starts to do with that util.
What I'm really interested here with Virtus.pro is the fact that historically they've always had this playstyle where they go in for a very quick, aggressive plant, and it was always a Mission who is in charge of doing that, but he's no longer on the team. Shockwave's going to be the one carrying the diffuser instead. This is quite a sneaky little peek hole here, but so far Bibu's not going to be seeing anything. But seeing how Milon compares, how he can add to that playstyle that Virtus.pro have always shown us, now that the kind of role of who's going to be taking in the diffuser has changed, that's going to be pretty interesting. Oh, well, there's the first.
There goes the first pick.
Yep.
And the second, Bibu shut down as well. Okay, trades back and forth, and I guess that goes to show sometimes peeking those little bullet holes isn't going to go your way.
No, I mean, that's the thing. You play the game enough, you start to get an idea of what it is people are going to do, and that gives Virtus.pro now the opportunity to start droning in. They know that that elbow wall has been double reinforced, and so the rotate is no longer there, but they are going to have to be aware of these roamers, specifically in the form of Fabian, as we just saw before. So that's why we are getting some of this play from the teams elsewhere in the map as Virtus.pro begin to open up the wall.
The thing about this roamer here of Fabian is he has to have an impact on the flank, because for now, Vitality aren't poised too strongly in terms of holding the site. VP have great control, and it's all a matter of time before they collapse onto that bomb site. So these roamers have to make sure they're ready to flank.
Well, Virtus.pro only have 3 members left of the team, and they're going up against 4 of Vitality. Knowing that they're being droned in, but actually that's a really good shot there from Rusk. He's always been a pretty good gunner for the team, and he doubles it up with one onto Fabian, just returned from the roam. Now you've just got to use the Evil Eyes to see if you can get what is possible, but Rusk's going to be adding on to everything to make that a 3K. Finally taken down there by Hungry, with 2 players left of Virtus.pro, and despite the fact that they had a man advantage, James, or man disadvantage, I should say. They managed to infiltrate the site pretty comfortably, and that's the first point going to Virtus.pro.
A really strong attack from the get-go for Virtus.pro. Yes, we did see one kill in the room from Fabian, but Virtus.pro had no troubles whatsoever dealing with that blue control. They managed to open up the wall using Ace into electrical and really just dissolve any kind of presence that Vitality had around blue. There was no push out from elbow. There was no strong presence at the pillar itself. So Virtus.pro basically had control of blue, electrical, and pillar. And when you have that entire half, I guess you could say, of that basement floor, it's very difficult to defend against. And I mean, Rask was just so prepared to go in for an entry, found 2 kills on the site, brought it up to a quad K all up, and very difficult for Vitality to play against that. I'd like to see maybe some more wall denial could help out, or maybe even just some more shields, and trying to play and hold on to map control for longer will help out Vitality.
I mean, you mentioned Rask. Obviously, he got 3 of those kills, and he was really a player to watch for on the last stage because he had his own bit of a dip in performance, and he was someone who really had to work things out to come back up to where we knew he could be. And then you watch him towards the end of the stage and at the major, and he just really showed up. And I think, judging by the performance in that first round, even though it's obviously not much to go off, it does make it look like that is going to be a trend that is continued on. And, you know, when you're playing it in a way that you bring your roamer back to site with Fabian, he's in freezer, you can set up that crossfire because you've still got players on site, and it's still the attacker rushing in who manages to secure those kills. It's definitely something that Vitality need to be afraid of going forward.
Now for their second defense, after that loss downstairs, Vitality have made quite a significant pivot, and they've decided to go for the meeting and kitchen bomb site, which is one of the least picked on this map. And I actually think this is a great idea from Vitality. They're deciding to change things up and go for a bomb site where they can play more loosely and try and hold on to more of the map, really lean into that roam game, because that's what was working well for them last round, but Virtus.pro was able to bypass that with a blue push. So I hope that it can work out. I hope that Vitality can start to hold on to this map control, but Virtus.pro are very much readying to hammer for this anvil.
It certainly looks like it. It's going to be a lot of pressure here on Bibu, who's going to have to see if he can get any kind of pick or at least any kind of value as the attackers come in. Obviously, the second Hibana pellet isn't going to be working there, as I believe it got Kai tricked by Fabian from below. So that's definitely a win in the eyes of Vitality there. That's going to mean Virtus.pro have to slightly change their method, how they're going to go about things. At the very least, does run a lot of time down. Fabian trying to get a peek round, it actually lands on Rask. That's a really valuable player from Virtus.pro that they were looking to get so much out of. And now the meeting wall is going to be somewhat opened as the Selma goes in. With a kill onto Fabian, things swing back round to Virtus.pro.
Good progress now for VP. Fascinating to see that they've stacked all 5 of their players for this tower take. And yes, one was taken out, but it means that Vitality really don't have to worry about their backside whatsoever. VP, it's very much like a hammer. There's no anvil. Like, Vitality is the anvil, and Virtus.pro is just putting all in on this big tower take. There's a minute left. Vitality still have some really good map control though, so when it comes down to that late round, even if Virtus.pro get that bomb site, Vitality will be in a pretty decent position to try to retake.
And that's the really key thing we have to be watching out for, is the way that time is working. If Virtus.pro do decide to just try and cut off a lot of that time to move on in, they have to be aware of how broad Vitality are spread out. If Milan decides to move in here, he's got to watch out for Rise, sat at the bottom of the main stairs. And obviously Goga's still right in the center of the site with Hungry watching out in the kitchen. It makes it so much harder for them to move in, but if they can overwhelm Vitality, then maybe that can work. But the diffuser's got to be going down as Goga gets the shot onto Shockwave. Rise, that was the shot I said that Milan had to be afraid of. Now just 15 seconds remaining, and it looks like things may not be going the way of Virtus.pro as Vitality continue to secure those kills on. Just WTG stands, but not for long. Hungry clears things up there. And it makes me wonder if, you know, maybe there is a reason that this site is not all that popular. So far, before this round, only 4 times had it been visited. 50% defensive win rate, and now that's just gone up.
Yeah, Gio, I think that really brings to light what a clever idea it was from Vitality to completely rotate off of not only Laundry basement objective, which they'd lost, but also not even going to dorms. The two sites which are the most played, the most common, the most dry run for attackers, like the attackers have most experience going up against those bomb sites. And Vitality, like with these bans, they're not going to be able to really heavily lean into wall denial. They're not going to be able to really heavily lean into defending deployable shields on account of Wamai being banned. They could try a mirror strat, but that's not perfect because you could Hibana it or ace it. So instead, Vitality is like, okay, let's play a bomb site where we can play really, really loose. And then Virtus.pro can't just do these one-dimensional pushes that they've been doing so far. And it was really smart from Vitality. It worked down to a T. Now I wonder what kind of adaptations will they make? What can they take from their victory just then into this next round when they're going back downstairs where Virtus.pro had won previously? And Vitality, hopefully they can change something about their play style to make it work. What I'm thinking at the moment is actually play things even more open. Maybe leave the hatch and meeting unreinforced, maybe open it, try and play and have your roamers within positions that they can try to retake. It doesn't look like they're doing that. They're just trying to choke up this blue and tower stairs area as much as possible. They've actually rotated one of their shields into elbow as well. And you can see once again, Virtus.pro heavy stacking for this blue take. So Vitality, I think they've leaned into that more so with their utility, but it's definitely going to be a bit of a game back and forth of who can Virtus.pro deal with these shields? Can Vitality hold on?
I mean, Virtus.pro came in so quickly last time. You can see by Fabian's switch over onto the Melusi, that's definitely to try and avoid that. It's going to be the shield going down very quickly and Goga having to retreat to site, adding the reinforcement over the rotate as Virtus.pro really wasted no time getting rid of that utility. Means now that Vitality are going to have to be even more aware, as Rise wasn't. He gets wallbanged straight through the soft wall of box from Rusk. And now Hungry's just going for the attempt to potentially bandit trick, or at least add the electrification onto the elbow wall.
It's a tough spot to be in for Vitality. They tried to change things up, but even quicker than last time did they lose control of blue. And Fabian, does he have impacts? He doesn't. He has a C4, so we can't make a rotate here unless he uses that C4. Someone seems to be wary of his position. He'll hear that repel in. Surely sees the Yana. No, he misses it. Just gets barely timed. And now, Vitality. Fabian's going to have to be huge on this flank for Vitality to have a shot here.
Question is he going to be able to do it? Once again, Virtus.pro look like they're in a position where they could all just push in and overwhelm the competition. Bibu placed in freezer means that Fabian doesn't have to rush down there in an attempt to grasp for control at the last minute. We saw how that worked out last time. He didn't last very long. Cooking that nade there is WTG, but it doesn't quite get the shot. Or the kill, I should say. Hungry still going into the electrification. They just want to be protecting those walls as much as they possibly can. Less than a minute remaining, and the kills are still yet to come in. Hungry gets the C4 onto Shockwave, but it is Milan who's holding onto the diffuser. So there is still hope. Fabian adding on. Freezer control being held here by Vitality, unlike last time, and things are looking way more in their favor.
Really good position now for Vitality. That's Virtus.pro, the onus on them to move forward. It's just about no util for them and locked out of the bomb site now. They really need to get a move on. That numbers disadvantage and positional disadvantage makes this so difficult. Vitality have all the positions they need.
Just waiting for Virtus.pro to come in. Less than 20 seconds remaining. There's going to be an easy shot onto Hungry, and Pasha gets that. He can start to make the plant. He's having his flank be watched. Milan does get a shot, but Goga, he got two, and Bibu getting the last one means the Vitality able to secure themselves the round, even if for a last bit there at the end, it looked like maybe they weren't going to be able to get it.
Yeah, really, really close there, honestly. Fabian's just constantly in the chat. I can't concentrate when he's just stealing all my attention. Yeah, I've got to say, I really thought Virtus.pro had it in the end there. Nice push in from Pasha on the Thatcher and almost got that plant down as well. Really good cover. I believe it was a Milan. But yeah, Vitality did change a few things up. it didn't start strong, I will admit, with Rise getting picked off in Pillar, and I thought that these adaptations that Vitality had made would not have been worth it. But the fact that they managed to retain that man advantage, they got to a 4v4, got another pick with the C4 from Hungary on the bomb site. In particular, also Bandit tricking that elbow wall on supply was a really good move from Hungary. And then Fabian, instead of trying to go for like a big flank down the tower stairs, where no doubt Virtus.pro would have had drones and been able to capitalize on that kill, Fabian just stacked side. He sat in freezer, and it meant that Fabian and the rest of Vitality were able to use that 4 versus 3 numbers advantage to their advantage, especially because they still had those strong positions. And it was so much more difficult for Virtus.pro then to push forward and find some frags and establish a beachhead onto that bomb site.
I think what's really important now is that Vitality, they lost the first round, they went to a different site, won that, and then they went back and proved to themselves, importantly, that they could then win that site despite the fact that Virtus.pro kind of dominated them in the first round. So now they're ready to come up to a new site as they've come all the way upstairs. And that should give them some more confidence, I think, in knowing that they'll be able to deal with whatever it is Virtus.pro are going to throw at them. Instead of bringing the Yana this time, they've reverted back to playing the IQ, which evidently worked quite well for them on the first round, because that was the last time they brought IQ as well. The question is, are Vitality going to be able to deal with it just as well? This is, of course, a new environment, I suppose you could say. This is a different site. But they should at least be feeling more confident.
Now for Vitality, I've got to say, like you said, going back to that bomb site and winning it, that's a really good confidence booster. But in particularly as well that Rise was picked off first and VP had the numbers advantage. For Vitality to come back and still win it, that's a huge confidence booster. You know, that doubles down on it. And now for Virtus.pro, they need to kick into gear here and win some more of these attacks, because I've got to say, with these bans and with the current environment of how many hard breaches are on the table, I do feel like we should be seeing some attacker favor here.
If you're Virtus.pro, you certainly hope so. And we know that they have the prowess to be able to do that. They're just taking their time to drone things out, and straight away that Goyo shield has been removed from Trophy. But the Trophy wall has actually been left soft. So you have to bear in mind, of course, that the defenders will still have that line of sight onto the master doorway, even though they still continue to hold at it. And that's Fabian who's up there. He's quite low on HP, and Virtus.pro are now moving forward. This is the attempted, I believe that worked. Was that an impact trick that he did?
Yeah.
Well, he's down 1 impact, so I assume that, yes, it did work. And that means
critically
that
here, Shockwave is fully out of he has no more Selmas. So hard breach, no longer. So really good, really critical impact trick there. And Vitality are actually in a really strong position now. Not only have they locked down that part of the bomb site, but on top of that, they still have Aroma downstairs. Goga, the Goyo, he's used his C4, but these holes in the floor could still allow him to deny plan, even if VP are able to take it away from Vitality.
That's definitely something we saw Rogue do before, but this is really close. If WTG can get, there we go, the one tap, that's Rise, very neatly deleted.
No
Milan
way.
adding a kill there onto Fabian as he just peeks from the shield. And this means that they're just gaining control rapidly despite the loss of all of the Selmas. The smoke is desperately trying to keep them away, and there's less than 20 seconds, so Virtus.pro don't have much of an option. With Pasha falling down, that's a key gunman they've lost, but they can still attempt to make the plant. Backwards and forwards are these kills going.
No
There's
way.
less than 10 seconds.
Hungry's
the only one remaining, but he doesn't manage to get the kill. Milan, the newest player on the team, he ensures that he is deleted. He is gotten rid of, and Virtus.pro secure themselves the round.
I can't believe that, Gio. I just set up this whole reasoning with evidence of why Vitality was favored near the end of that round. Virtus.pro had no more hard breach. There was still presence below from Vitality.
I cried.
I was. I'm pick after pick. Firstly, VP, yes, a nice little one tap from WTG through the floor. Rise caught a bit unawares by that. But secondarily, and I think more critically, the player who was able, I think it was Pasha, no, it was Milan, was able to push through Attic. I don't think they breached Attic. He must have jumped in through the window, walking through a Banshee. He's immobilized, and there's a huge sound, and Vitality just clearly weren't aware enough, and Milana enabled that control from Attic and Pig to then take into Kids. And suddenly the round was flipped on its head. And this advantageous position for Vitality was now a 5 versus 3 for Virtus.pro, and they can just do what they do best. Start jumping in windows, start fragging it out. Even if they trade back and forth, they're going to win that round out.
It was definitely huge for them, I think, the fact that Fabian did lose so much HP, which meant that it was probably easier for them to actually take the lower attic for themselves. And obviously, when he dipped out, or I should say poked out, from behind the shield in Kids, again, that's just another room that you can take control of pretty quickly once you get rid of that defender that's in there. So, yeah, the story of the lost hard breach, definitely a sad one, and you can actually see here that Virtus.pro have decided to bring a second one as well. They're going to be avoiding those kinds of troubles that were brought onto them last time. Although this time Vitality aren't going to be running, they're not going to be running a Maestro. They are going to be running a Kaid again, just like last time they came to meeting, which I believe is the bomb site they're in. Yeah, it is. And Fabian did successfully Kaid trick the wall before. So if he can do that again, that could be, you know, a big hindrance to Virtus.pro.
And that's why I'd like to see Thatcher, Thatcher. I said Thatcher, halfway between Pasha and Thatcher. That's why I'd like to see Pasha throw 2 EMPs down, because that will ensure that the Kaid trick is denied. And they can definitely get that open. Kaid trick comes out, and that's going to get it. It's going to get at least part of this, and there you go. But fortunately for Virtus.pro, at least the Selma had 2 lines already detonated, which means that it can still be vaulted in through. Shockwave's also going to kick it off. That's the 3rd time this game that Rise has been the opening pick of the round. Man is not having a good day.
Oh, I was waiting to see if Shockwave was actually going to be able to get that shot there, but BB's going to play it a little bit smarter. He did have to back off somewhat when the attic wall was opened. So how much value he's going to be able to get is going to be something that Vitality, I think, will be relying on even more now. And now the meeting will open too. This is so much more exposure than was had before. Virtus.pro, they're going to take their time. They have about half the round left. They don't need to feel the need to rush.
Such a precarious position and meeting for Fabian, so he drops down. Virtus.pro really well stacked. You can see gathering information as those players on drone. Pasha just holding this long line. Milon upstairs also knows that he needs to retain control of Attic into the late round. But Pasha here just waiting for someone to peek out and take control of meeting, but Shockwave finds his 2nd on the round, 50 seconds to go, and Virtus.pro are primed and ready for this execute.
They are ready. 3 members remaining of Vitality. Throwing in the smoke once again, but the smoke's also out from Virtus.pro. It's going to conceal the plant, which they are going to be able to get off.
No way!
Not. They're not. So Pasha has to go for it again, and Hungry gets the kill onto Shockwave with the smoke, and Fabian adding on to that as well. The remaining players of Virtus.pro may have to find themselves jumping in here if they want to protect what's going on. There's a kill onto WTG, though, and things look like it's really going down the drain here for Virtus.pro. Vitality getting those last few kills, and just Milon is standing. Once again, the newest player of this team. Is he going to be able to clutch it out? He doesn't really know where he's looking. So many angles he has to be concerned about, and Hungry say, no, I've got one of those, and we've got this round. And Virtus.pro miss out on getting that round as Vitality collapse in and prove their coordination right when they need it.
Yeah, wow, I totally thought that Virtus.pro was primed and ready. I mean, Gio, this is the 2nd round in a row where everything in the round was suggesting one thing was going to happen, and then suddenly someone goes out and just completely changes my expectations. In that particular round, a shout out to Hungry, his gas canister was critical. It was the pivotal moment in that round, was as soon as the player planting was injured, the plant did not go down. It was milliseconds off of getting locked down, and that player was injured. I thought he was going to get it too, but not only did that gas deny the plant, but then when the 2nd player tried to just stick that diffuser down again, Fabian had been able to sneak up past the smoke and was in a position to deny that and repeat. So Vitality really kind of won that 3v5 that they probably shouldn't have, and Virtus.pro just let that slip through their fingers. And what I will say is, I mean, credit to Vitality right now. They have won Kitchen Meeting 2 times, and that is the least picked bomb site, was the least picked bomb site on this map during the EUL in Stage 1. Like you said earlier, 4 times, a win rate of 50%, which is are lower than Laundry, which is the other main site they've been going to. And Vitality are clearly, they're more confident in their meeting hold than they are anywhere else because it's the one they are picking as soon as they can get their hands on it.
You can tell it's something that they've been practicing. And I think that really gives them an edge. You know, whenever a team have been specifically practicing, whether it be a certain site, a certain strategy that maybe their opponent isn't expecting, it obviously gives you a massive advantage. And it was obviously really hard for WTG at the end there because he couldn't just back off because Bibu was still upstairs. So again, they've mastered the way of holding off those key players who would be needed in the late round. And that's something really to watch out for with Vitality, I think, as they return down to the basement now. Once again, playing something of a roam game. This time Hungry's going to be upstairs. Maybe just getting ready to get some kind of peek. I mean, Pash is right on the meeting door. He could be taken down, but he's not. I mean, he does eventually get killed. He got down, but wow, that shouldn't have taken that long. I'll pretend I didn't see it.
That's actually huge, though, because that's your Thatcher gone down. The primary and really only operator from Virtus.pro that's going to be denying that. And look at that, immediately. Great job, Medics, the Observer. He looks at Hungry, and Hungry now knows, okay, Thatcher is dead. I don't have to Bandit Trick anymore. I can just chuck all my batteries down static. You've got 2 on the supply walls into Elbow, and 1 now on the north-facing wall as well towards Pillar. Now this really puts Virtus.pro on the back foot.
Definitely not a good position to be in. Removing that Melusi web work is going to make it easier, I should say, for them to make their way down the tower stairs and take control of Pillar here, as there's none of the defenders they have to worry about there. But Fabian's directly above, upstairs. And obviously, they're not going to be going for the meeting hatch, it looks like. So they have to play completely laterally here. And when they can't open up those walls, it makes it so much harder. They obviously got the box wall open, but elbow wall is not something that they're going to be able to get control of. C4 does reach WTG. I thought that it was going to, you know, just not make it. And the Bandit Trick kind of gets there just in time. There's a small opening. This could be the opening for Virtus.pro. They are at the man disadvantage. Milan's just holding on to the angle into Freezer as everyone else decides how they're going to be moving on into the site. Hold Vitality back, and then we can push in. That seems to be the plan.
40 seconds left. This gas is going to further choke out Virtus.pro, forced into an aggressive position, but that's where Rusk likes it. Now Vitality trying to hold on. 30 seconds left. But Virtus.pro actually might be able to make an execute work. Apparently not, though, because Vitality have 3 players just to the newest of Virtus.pro to hold on. Found out by the Banshee, reclaiming that diffuser, but just about no hope in the next 15 seconds of making this one work. Gonna have to force it on through, but taken out, and there you go, Vitality. A very, very strong defensive half, winning 4 out of the 6 rounds.
Yeah, it's actually, you know, Virtus.pro looked incredibly strong in the first round. And that's not to say they didn't look good elsewhere, but it really looked like Vitality had it down on how to adapt, how to go against a specific playstyle. I mean, every time they went down to the basement site, you still had that issue at the end where the crossfire from Freezer was too much. And that's actually what Virtus.pro, or Vitality, I should say, tried to do in the first round. It just so happened that Russ got the shot onto Fabian right as he reached Freezer. But then the, you know, preceding rounds, they made sure that that was held. As soon as they tried to move into supply and do something with the site, they were just met with these crossfires. And that is something that Virtus.pro, I suppose any team in the world, would really struggle to deal with when you're being shot at from so many different angles. So now it's their chance to build things back up in their favor as they switch on over to their defense, and they've actually decided to come up to the upstairs site, kids and dorms, which is something that Vitality didn't do. They decided to leave that until round 4.
Yeah, it was not super successful for them, despite when we thought it was going to work out. Funnily enough, this bomb site is actually was, I should say, in stage 1 of the EUL, the least defender-favored bomb site. Narrow margins there, we're talking a couple of percent either way. But I will say Vitality winning this split 4-2 is pretty good for them. It's above average, I would say. You're probably usually looking at a 50-50 split, which is what the stats would dictate, 52% to the defense. But the fact that Vitality was able to adapt, especially as you mentioned, since Virtus.pro started so strong, that's a really good sign. Now let's see if they can keep that momentum, bring it into their attacking half, because they'll really need to get going fast, because Vitality, well, we've seen them be super inconsistent. I would just hate to see it slip now.
I was wondering about what was going to happen with Pasha here. We saw Bibu jump up straight to big window, but with Pasha inside of small tower, that's going to really add an aversion to anyone from Vitality going up until they clear that out. You can actually see, I think it's Rusk who's just below him, who's joined him in that side of the map. And there he is, just looking down Shower's corridor. So they're really ensuring that that side of things cannot be held. That means a lot of the attacking attention has to be spent elsewhere. And so you can add so much, value being able to hold that big window area.
Also, first round without ace this game, Goga deciding to favor Hibana. I wonder why that is. Perhaps because he wants to get more hatches if it's a downstairs attack. Only running one hard breach. I expect that we would see that used on the closet wall. Shockwave is ready to impact trick. It's quite difficult to get those X-Kairos off on the wall. Goga just flicking cams for his teammates downstairs at the moment, watching for runouts as well, but he's got some work to do. He knows enough. Can't waste any more time, so he's going to start it here. But is the position ready for the impact trick? The nade comes out, and Shockwave, can he get it done? Hits the bottom of the fan, and he does destroy those X-Kairos, but he eats a grenade at the same time. And that'll be the second player from Virtus.pro to go down. Not only is Milon really low on HP, but as he tries to revive Shockwave, that'll leave them both exposed.
You win some, you lose some, and as you say, Milon was actually able to get him up, but it does still mean that Vitality have to try and get this wall open. Should be able to with that last X-Kairos pellet, but so much time has been expended so far in this round just for them to get that first wall open. Now Hungary can start to move around towards big window, and Milon's actually really low HP there in kids, so he's definitely going to be struggling when it comes to holding his own in these fights. Vitality don't have much time left. Under 30 seconds, they're gonna have to begin to make this push. Otherwise, they're really gonna find themselves struggling. They should have the advantage. In goes the flashes to start things off, and they can start to move in.
Yes.
This duo push from Attic works out pretty well. Shockwave gets one kill, but is immediately traded out. Perfect opportunity for Goga to be planting down the diffuser, and it looks like Rosk's not gonna be doing much, but as I say that, he gets a double kill. It doesn't last though. Fabian finishes things off, and Vitality looking exceptionally coordinated at the end there, despite spending a significant amount of time making sure that the necessary walls were open. They were able to do it, and now Virtus.pro, I think, need to be worried.
Definitely. That was such a good end round from Vitality. I've got to say, probably credit to Fabian's leadership in the final moments to shot call that eventual push, because Vitality were in a pretty shoddy position. Now, yes, both Milon and I think it was Shockwave, were really low on HP. Shockwave had already been injured and revived, and also Virtus.pro had already lost one player of Pasha. So Vitality have a 5 versus 4 and a significant health advantage, but they didn't have a proper avenue in through the game's wall because of that impact trick from Shockwave earlier. And also, notably, we didn't really see this during the round, but if you were keeping a keen eye on the HUD, you would have noticed Vitality only had 3 drones left when there was 45 seconds on the clock. And that persisted down to, 20 seconds left. Now, if you have a numbers advantage, you probably just want to go in and refrag it out. But ideally, you drone first, you figure out where these players are, you move in, you refrag. But Vitality, they didn't have those drones. So instead, like you mentioned, sending 2 players straight through Attic and to refrag it out, look, they didn't even need to refrag each other because they got that initial engagement successfully on their side. People pushing, it was just Vitality said 3, 2, 1, go. It was perfect. It substituted their lack of information just by having brothers in arms next to each other, ready to support. It was so beautiful to watch.
It's a really good example of the synergy and leadership that you want from a team, but this is why they picked up Fabian. And people knew that it would take some time for them to develop that. They had stage 1 to kind of build it, and a lot of people were being patient. Some people maybe not being patient for them to build that up. But that's where you see that veteran leadership come in, where you know you could just do that, and Milon can just do that straight away. Bieber's life goes down the drain, and there's your entry in the form of Ash, who's gone, while your roam is still on the prowl. Another thing for Vitality to worry about, but there's another thing for Virtus.pro to worry about, is Fabian's just able to get the refrag and get rid of the roamer.
I do wonder how much info Vitality have right now. This is a downstairs objective, but the roam is still very present from Virtus.pro. In fact, they have 3 players off site, leaving just WTG alone downstairs in elbow, actually. So if Vitality had the info right now, they could be so keen for a front rush or a freezer rush, even blue, because WTG is the only player there. Shockwave would take him some time to rotate, but I'm pretty sure we just saw some players from Virtus.pro drop down that hatch, and in fact, it may be so that the entire Virtus.pro is now back on the basement indeed. So they wasted an extra 30 seconds just to stay up and shoot a few more drones. Shockwave in this aggressive position here. He's on this camera, so he's really safe right now. And his job is just to shoot another drone and keep draining this utility and information and time away from Vitality. You look at their drone economy right now. They've got 2 drones still up on Bibu, but they can't move them because he's dead. And then just 2 drones on Fabian and 2 on Hungry. So Goga, who's their main support player, can't really drone right now. Rise can't either. There's another drone gone down. So over a minute left, and Virtus.pro are really sitting quite comfortable right now. Vitality have to get a move on.
And they had a second one there on the freezer stairs as well. It wasn't shot, but they do know that Pasha is there ready and waiting, as well as opening up the hatch directly above. It seriously looks like this is where Vitality want to be applying their pressure and are considering doing that. But they're also coming down in through laundry as well. This multi-angled pressure, kind of opposite to what it was Virtus.pro did on their attack, which was very blue and construction oriented. But are they going to be able to deal with everything that they'll have to face as they come in? Rask crouched just behind the bomb. He could really be a lethal weapon, and Vitality are going to have to face that as they come on in. 4 versus 4 in this fight with 30 seconds remaining. There's the shot onto, not the shot onto Pasha. Pasha, he was able to get it for himself. Refragged out, and that means Rise can continue to move forward, but Virtus.pro know that they have players coming in from that direction. Shockwave adds onto the tally, but now it's a 2 versus 2. Make it a 2 versus 1, as just Rise is remaining. He sees the player and Pillar, nearly misses him, but can he find the last one? 3 seconds to go, but no. The shotgun to his face means the Virtus.pro reign victorious in that round. But wow, so much pressure, so much aggression at the end there. It really could have been anyone's, and I honestly think that the lack of information that you highlighted maybe gave Virtus.pro the edge in that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Very close and down to the wire. I was scared for Rise there because he's had such a rough game, and honestly, such a rough, not only this stage, of course, this is his opening game, but last stage, Rise in particular was a player that really struggled. So I'm keeping my eye on him as we continue out. But as for the bigger picture of that round, yeah, 100% Vitality pretty starved for information, and that's why I really like the strategy that Virtus.pro brought to the table. They invested quite a bit of utility and manpower into the roam. Not only was there Milon just kind of running around on a fairly free roam, but 2 players in attic, meeting hall, ready to shoot drones, coming in and sussing out what the situation is, whether it's the Malusi's Banshees or reinforced walls or just trying to spot out players. Plus we had the Kaid player, Shockwave, aggressive on the rear stairs. His job is just to shoot a drone back off, shoot a drone back off. And he knows that it's not really that dangerous doing that because he's got a camera right next to him that can call out if anyone's going to try and wide swing in. And he has a pretty safe retreat. A similar thing happened in Freezer, where it was the Malusi player, Pasha, was allowed to just sit quite aggressively in Freezer for such a long time, and basically taking 50-50 gunfights, and he'll back himself in those. Even if Vitality sends a drone in, all he's going to do is shoot that drone, and then aim up at where the player's going to peek him from. Vitality, they didn't have the hatch open, they didn't have much utility to try and suppress him, and it meant that Virtus.pro was just allowed to play in their element, and I really like that playstyle from them. And if they can keep that up, I definitely think there's a possibility here for them to bring it back to a winnable position.
Well, right now, they're in the same position that Vitality were at the beginning of the game, and that is that they went to a second site, which they then won, and now they can return back to their first defensive site and try and prove to themselves that they can take it, and that should regain some of that confidence. We have to see if they can even do that in the first place. It was something that Vitality managed to achieve for themselves, and I think there's no reason why Virtus.pro don't have the ability to, but as I say that, Rusk, straight away, going to be taken down as the first pick. Looked like he was going for a run out, but Bibu was definitely ready for it. And that was a similar part of the map that he was in as well from the first round, or as I should say, round 7. Except now Bibu still holds control there. when in round 7, he was taken down very early.
Yeah, I think that Vitality is really reading into Virtus.pro's aggression on this particular bomb site. We saw it happen last round, as you said. Vitality was very aware of someone running out small tower, but this time, instead of just kind of watching it more passively, BB was taking a more active role, and it meant that Rask was not allowed to get away with his life as he did last time he tried to peek that. Remember last time what happened on this round, on this bomb site I should say, is Virtus.pro had a successful impact trick onto the Hibana that was trying to open up the walls in games. But this time Ace is brought instead, and he's got 3 separate Selmas, so he can throw one down. Even if Shockwave was here in a position to trick that with the impact grenade, well, Goga's got 2 more. There's redundancy there. And there you go. An impact, I think, did just go out and potentially make that only a line of sight hole. Not sure, but Goga's got plenty of Selmas in the bank. Oh, another impact comes out. Really nice use here from Virtus.pro, and that means that that little middle panel there, this Selma is going to have to hit it. Otherwise, that entryway is not valid.
Well, it's a bit messy, but it'll do, I suppose.
It's not the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but it works.
No, definitely not. Now Milan's just positioned here, ready for anyone to come in through Trophy. He has backed off somewhat, but Vitality, they're trying to hold on to these angles to ensure that they can push on forward. I'm liking the Pasha's coming downstairs here. He knows that there's likely going to be someone else, maybe Bibu, elsewhere, who's going to be looking to push up through a different direction. They want to be prepared for it. They want to know that this gunfire is going to be put to good use as Vitality begin to make their push. Milan doesn't want to be too courageous, I suppose, but there we go. WTG got them shot onto Bibu anyway, so it doesn't matter. Milan does go down. A nice C4 there from Pasha as Hungry secures himself 2 kills, but with Shockwave finishing things off at the end there, that means the Virtus.pro do hold on to that site, and this is exactly what I spoke about. They needed to show themselves that they could do that. And I think a lot of these rounds on both halves of the game so far, we have definitely seen things really coming down to the wire at the end. You know, very few, if any, of these rounds have been like, wow, this one team, they got the advantage so early that there was nothing the other team could do. A lot of it was very, very late round, late game. And so being able to show, actually, no, we got this, we win those, we're just better, that's going to really help in this game, I think.
Yeah, in particular, it's quite hard to predict what's going to happen round to round because things are changing mid-round so frequently. We're seeing one team looking favored and then another team will just pull something out of a hat. But that wasn't quite the case that round. I'd say Virtus.pro was fairly well positioned from like the mid to end round. Vitality only had 30 seconds left in a 4 versus 4 by the time they actually got games open to a point where they could walk through and plan. And at that point, you have multiple players from Virtus.pro who are still alive with presence downstairs. In particular, Pasha was supporting Shockwave to ensure that no Vitality player could just try and sneak up White and take out the Maestro. But doubling down on that, Pasha, with the C4 still in the pocket, could also rotate down into a position to deny the plant through the floor. So Virtus.pro had really set up well in that late round, and it meant Vitality was in just such a poor position to try and secure either the kills or the plant. So it's the way of Virtus.pro. But now they've won 2 defenses in a row, and we'll have to see VP try and replicate that success on a tertiary bomb site. And instead of the kitchen meeting choice that Vitality was so keen on, Virtus.pro are going with dining.
Yeah, I always love seeing this site. And what's really interesting here actually is you see where they put the reinforcements in showers. A lot of the time you'll actually see a rotate going into dining hall where that is, but instead they've put it right in next to the entrance into showers corridor. So they can get out the back of the site rather than straight into the site. It's not something that you see a lot of the time, but they're still going to have that player playing inside showers itself. A lot of the time you'll see that being a Maestro, but it actually looks like it's Pasha who is positioned there.
We do see Vitality taking control of the small tower, no reinforcements on the main wall into small tower from dining means we'll need to see some soft breach utility utilized on that. Potentially, I guess you could use an ace, but that could then get shot through the soft wall. So you're probably going to see either the Zafir or the Ash use their breaching rounds on the soft wall, but of course that does soak up some of your explosives. You would need to destroy the 3 Banshees and 2 Evil Eyes, which I think is part of the strategy here for Vitality, for Virtus.pro. They want to try and drain as much of this explosive, just getting rid of that wall, and then still keep the explosives, I guess, drained out when it comes to their utility.
Well, and obviously you want the explosives to be used because when you're going up against the Clash, ideally you'd quite like to, you know, lifeline her or something along those lines. But if the lifelines have been, you know, expended, suddenly it makes it harder to deal with that shield. So there you go, there's a lot of the explosives, and you can see them trying to get this vertical angle down onto the site. If they can get behind the Clash, maybe their lives would be a bit easier, clear things out from above, and then you have the way in that you can actually start to infiltrate. There's the Melusi Wub being taken out, so that's going to make it easier to enter actually into Dining itself. Bivu moving right on up to try and hold the angle into Showers.
Pasha droned out, caught in a pickle, but allowed to retreat. That's so pivotal now for Virtus.pro. Still, they have 5 players alive, and while Vitality is making progress, Virtus.pro, they're not losing much for it. All they're losing is ground. They still have lots of utility and lots of manpower. 2 gases in the pocket, WTG to get information using the Clash. Vitality, their utility is draining constantly. Fabian still has 2 concussions left. Gonna send those out. They're trying to take out the Clash, but still, WTG allowed to give information. Now this plan has to start going down from Goga, and surely Virtus.pro are going to be in a position to deny it.
Finally chipped away so much that the Clash goes down, and Pasha being brought down as well means that Vitality are gonna have everything they need. Goodbye, Goga, but we don't need you anyway. We've got everything we need to start moving in and taking this plant. As Virtus.pro have been pushed back, they now have to move forward if they want to get it, but Shockwave is starting things off, but it looks like it's going to be very difficult. Rusk, he is all on his own, going against these last 2 players, and the plant has been made. He can't make the shot at the end. Bibu secures it, showing up in the exact place that you would want him to. And Vitality, they get the round despite the fact that there were 10 men standing for so long. As I said, they chipped away, and then they just, everything came down.
I was just speechless at that. I mean, that was just insane.
That's my Dev impression.
Thanks, Gio. Yeah, I appreciate that. Mike, that was crazy there. I mean, I was really championing Virtus.pro there. I was saying, wow, look at this strategy, the way they're trying to soak up Vitality's utility. Credit to Vitality, they could tell. They didn't just willy-nilly use their util. They were very much methodical about it. They didn't get over eager with their spending. You know, they did their financing, you know, projected budgets, etc. And moving forward from that point, like, I thought Virtus.pro had an advantage. Vitality, as they forced down that plant, they found a few picks, then they team killed the planter, and suddenly Hungry, like, you could visibly see his confusion. It took him a few extra seconds to try to force down that plant, realize he had diffuser, and at that point it was like, surely Virtus.pro have got this on the retake. And then what happens? Bibu just kills everybody.
You know, I'm not trying to be that guy, but it's not the first time this game that you've been like, so I was setting up for this team to win and the other one did. I'm not saying this about you.
I guess I'm just
let's put it down to the let's say you're washed up. Yeah, let's put it down to the unpredictability of the team fights 100%. That are happening here. I think that's what. Not only does it make it interesting and it builds up so much hope, especially for Vitality here, who we've been looking at with these laser eyes. We're like the kid with the magnifying glass. He's looking down onto the ant, but the ant said, no, you're not burning me today, kid. It also just makes it really fun. You know, it's just, it's so great to watch where you really can't tell what way it's going to go until it happens.
Yeah, this is a very, very close game. And we've seen some really good stuff from both teams. A lot of the time, Vitality, you know, it looked like they were winning by the skin of their teeth. And it was the skin of Bibu's teeth last round. He 100% was the deciding factor in Vitality's match point that they're currently holding on to. Best that Virtus.pro can hope for is a draw. But Vitality, after everything they've been through, all the trials and tribulations of this new roster, surely they're gunning for that victory. They need that confidence and also those valuable points in the bank, as they are definitely a team vulnerable to leaking down into those relegation positions. And this round may be the one that punches their ticket upwards on the standings.
Vitality really just proving that the EU method of sticking with your team and going through improvements over a long period of time can pay off. Not saying other regions should listen to that, but you know, they're getting the hatches open regardless. So this is looking pretty good, but Hungary's actually had his just desserts. He got some C4 kills earlier and things turned straight around on him. Milan, stationed here in Freezer, is looking out for the player who begins to move on down, but Pasha's going to find himself caught in that trade. There are 3 players remaining here on Vitality, and they're still yet to really make this push. They have a minute remaining, so there's time, but when you're in that man disadvantage, you have to be very aware of that, knowing the gunfights you've got to be taking up. Fabian, he is really trying to get this angle, really trying to just get this kill, and finally manages it. The persistence, the patience. He secures the kill onto Rask, and now things are evened out.
So how's this execute shaping up for Vitality? 2 players Freezer, 1 bottom main stairs, but good utility from WTG. Still with gas canisters in the pocket. Second one goes out. He's flashed up, and Fabian finds yet another. He's been a driving force in this round, but he's taken out, and Virtus.pro are well and truly on the comeback train. And just 1 round away from that draw that they've been punching for. Getting very close here against Vitality.
Yeah, it was a shame at the end, though. He was just, you know, looking the wrong way. There's only so much you can do in that situation. But as you say, with another one there for Vitality, for Virtus.pro, I hate having 2 teams that start with a V. Right. Virtus.pro taking that last round. As you say, the best they can hope for is a draw. But equally, they can force Vitality into that same position right now. And that's a very powerful place to be. Vitality, who did look like they were doing so well and looking so strong, so coordinated, it's not that they're not looking...
I should say, and still hasn't quite found his footing. And I think that maybe comes from, you know, as a history on Rogue, played a bit more of an aggressive position and trying to slot now into something that maybe isn't quite as comfortable. And it's taken Rise quite a long time to feel comfortable with this team. I really hope that we can see that change, because Rise is such a talented player and has been for such a long time.
Conversely, you know, to balance things out with a slightly more positive thing, I think that almost the opposite of that could be said for Fabian.
Yeah,
you know, we
definitely
know that he was brought onto this team for the leadership more so than anything else. But even so, back in stage 1, we did see really kind of unbalanced performances from him. And, you know, people mentioned various stats that he got in certain games, and there was the whole debate as to, you know, whether you're going to make pro players cry if you note the fact that they got bad stats in one game. You know, Fabian's a big boy, and he knows how to move on, and he knows how to push forward, and whatever it is he does inside his own head to get himself to the point where he can play at the level that he knows he's capable of, he's done it. Because today he looks so on point.
For sure, and on that note, we've actually seen Fabian make a bit of a pivot in terms of what Operator is playing. He's jumping on the ace, and for the first time, Vitality are bringing 2 hard breaches to the table. Goga has decided to stick the thermite that he took last round, but we've got the ace as well, which means there's even more hard breach available. And I wonder, does this mean that Vitality here attacking this Dorm's objective, where constantly they were struggling to get this games wall open from the closet? Perhaps the idea here is for Goga to go and open Attic, and then Vitality have that avenue available to them, and Fabian use all 3 of his aces just to basically nullify the impact rate. You've got 2 impacts, you can destroy 2 of those ace charges, and then you got 1 ace left. So maybe that's the thought process here, but for now, Goga is still shaping up on this balcony, so perhaps the idea is just that they want to thermite it open and then have ace available for some redundancy. I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll have to see how Vitality intend to make this happen.
Yeah, either way, we are going to find out. But, you know, both teams now have faced the fact that they've lost a lot of hard breach to this games room wall. So I'd say regardless of how it is they're going to be doing it, it is smart to bring the double hard breach anyway. Obviously, just clearing out a lot of this utility in and around a trophy, and that does give Vitality the option to move on forward. It also puts a lot more pressure on Shockwave's back, as he's going to want to focus on the impact tricking that you mentioned before.
We do have impact on Pasha as well. But with no one really in a position to do the proper impact trick here against the Thermite, I think this is going to be a freebie. And indeed, Pasha attempts it, but not possible at that range. That would have only worked against Ace. And now Vitality, they have what they really struggled to get in their previous attacks of this bomb site. I'll remind you, they've only won this bomb site attack once, and they lost it once as well. But they're primed and in a position to take this one and lock out this game as a victory, 7-5. But if anything, if we've learned anything this map, it's not to get too ahead of ourselves, Gio, because things can turn on a dime.
Well, straight away, eradicating the evil eye from the wall means that they can't be watched, and it also means those Selmas can be put there onto the trophy wall. That's going to put a lot of pressure here onto Milan, who really will be looking to get some of those shots, but even so, you know, when you have the entire attacking team coming through and Bibu looking like he's ready to jump in through the attic window as well, it makes it difficult. He does get the shot onto Fabian. That's a great start, but still the pressure is mounting. Shockwave will be falling, but 15 seconds remaining means that Vitality don't have much time. They went for the diffuser, but the diffuser didn't go. Virtus.pro take that last round, and that does mean I said they had the power to force Vitality into a draw, and that's exactly what they got.
A very impressive comeback for Virtus.pro. You've got to give them the credit there. They were down in the dumps, and it looked like Vitality had their number after a strong defensive